Welcome back. We're building up to tomorrow night's Champions League final. It's Manchester City taking on Chelsea. And of course, these two pitting their wits against one another once again. Two grandmasters to meet in the Champions League final, as this piece described. And of course, there's a lot of football brain power out there. This was a fascinating look inside in the Guardian, inside the mind of an obsessive with a winning touch, asking people who know Thomas Tuchel to talk about him. Well, Adam Hunt is with us. He's in Porto, building up to this one and enjoying the sunshine and the Portuguese egg tarts as he goes. Adam, tell me this. You've got press conferences coming up with these two guys. Which of the two do you find most compelling as a storyline ahead of this final?
Yeah, it's really interesting, John, to draw the similarities between the two of them. Football nerds, they're described, really educated. They like to focus on the details, and that has provided them with so much success, particularly Pep Guardiola, over their careers. The thing with Tuchel, I've interviewed him a few times, is that he does have quite a soft, fun side. He's funny, he's entertaining, he's really engaging company. And that's what a lot of insiders at the Chelsea training ground at Cobham say that he's brought to the club, compared to some of the perhaps more sullen, surly times that have gone in recent managers, you know, the likes of Maurizio Sarri, Antonio Conte, Jose Mourinho, all three of those great managers, but not really known for the lighter side and the fun side, whereas Thomas Tuchel has brought smiles and hugs and fun to training. And a lot of the players, and when I've spoken to Tuchel himself, has said that that's important, and that's one of the reasons that they've enjoyed so much success in the relatively short time that he's been at the club since taking over from Frank Lampard. I don't think he's even been there over 125 days. And look what he's already done. You know, had a brilliant finish to the season. They've got to the final of the Champions League. And part of it is due to that man management, and that he can be serious when he needs to be, but he can also help them have a good time, which helps them to play well on the pitch. Yeah,
great insight there. Let's talk about what he's done against Pep as well, and Dan's going to jump in and talk to me about this one, because if we take a little look, I mean, it's 2-0, remember. In the space of a month or so. It's currently Tuchel 2, Pep Guardiola 0 going into this one. Can we read anything into those victories? Asked Sam Inkersol. Well, if you look at them, go back to the bottom there. That was actually Frank Lampard in charge at the start of January. City just swaggering into a 3-goal lead in 34 minutes against Chelsea then. But very different. Okay, in close games with very fine margins, Dan, it's Chelsea that emerged under Tuchel with a 1-0 in the FA Cup, and then that 2-1 victory with that late Marcos Alonso goal in the league. So I just wonder, is there a format? Is there a formula that Tuchel's managed to come up with against him?
I think it's important kind of in and of itself, because I think if there's one suspicion about Guardiola or one flaw, it's that he tends to, you know, the cliches that he overthinks these things and tries to second guess himself. And I think that's probably particularly true in games against managers where he's already lost. You know, he's had this run against Solskjaer's Manchester United. He's on this little run against Tuchel's Chelsea, and that may well provide Chelsea with a slight psychological advantage if Guardiola does change what is ostensibly the best plan to try and counteract the recent results. But, you know, there were lots of changes in the league game that they lost 2-1 to a last-minute goal. The FA Cup semi-final was incredibly tight. I think Guardiola will think, well, we're due one here. We're due to show Chelsea what we can do.
Yeah, that's the way I'm seeing this one here. Let's talk about Chelsea in terms of the team news here. Going into this one, I think they've got far less certainty, far less confidence, certainly amongst the fans, about one or two others. Talking about confidence, Timo Werner's been talking about that, addressing his real horrors in front of goal and saying his confidence was shot and all he could do was just keep on going. The biggest concern, of course, was late injuries, and it was Edouard Mendy who's been so colossal for them in goal, colliding with the post, of course, not that long ago, damaging his ribs and being an injury doubt. And then, of course, N'Golo Kante left out entirely of the last game with muscular problems there. So this was a Mendy story. If you get a chance, go and read it. It's absolutely brilliant. But, I mean, that's just the backstory to this. Kante was the next one that they worried about because of his muscular problems. Adam, I guess the Chelsea fans you've spoken to must all have been worried about this one. And you'll find out, I hope in due course, that they're fit, because I'd like to see all of these guys play in the final.
You're right, John, they were worried, and I think the main one, as you said in that article there, was Edouard Mendy, because I think amongst the Chelsea fans, the gap they feel between the quality of Mendy and then also Kepa, who has made so many high-profile mistakes for Chelsea in the time that he's been at the club, compared to Mendy, who's been absolutely brilliant for them this season, a real revelation. Such a good keeper, a great shot stopper, and moves really well. And I think when they saw that injury against Aston Villa on the final day of the season, when he collided with the post, I think a lot of Chelsea fans, a lot of non-Chelsea fans, thought that he was going to do well to make it to the final. It looked quite painful. But we're being told the latest on the ground is that he is going to be okay and he's going to be able to start for Chelsea in the final. And given the quality of Manchester City, as we've already discussed, he's going to be peppered with shots, I'm sure, from all of those great forward players from City. You need a great keeper in big finals, and Mendy certainly is that. So I think of all the players we look at from Chelsea's perspective, particularly the ones that were touch and go, Mendy and Kante, I think Mendy is the one that the Chelsea fans are most happy to have available. Yeah,
absolutely. Daniel, give us your take on this Chelsea side. I think what we're all expecting, of course, is that Azpilicueta slips into that three, that we know what's happening with Chilwell on one side, with Reece James bombing forward on the other. The questions would be what happens in those central midfield areas, particularly if there's a problem with Kante. I don't think there is a problem, but if there were, would it be Kovacic, who hasn't played any football lately, although he's won 3 of these finals, he's never played a second of football in Champions League final football yet, or Jorginho. And then I stuck Pulisic in because I really like the guy, but Ziyech, of course, would be the option. Havertz as well up there. What do you see happening from Tuchel?
My best guess was that he might play Kai Havertz as the kind of nominal centre forward, false 9, with Werner out on the left. Partly because I think his kind of work outside the box has been great this season, but his finishing hasn't been, and it kind of takes some pressure off that. But also because it provides a fluidity to that attack, which, if you look at the opponents who have beaten Manchester City in the Champions League, the Lyon and Monaco, it was those that had real fluid front lines that could kind of pull defenders out of position. So, yeah, my guess would be Havertz central, Werner left, and one of Pulisic or Ziyech right.
Adam, let's talk a little bit before you leave us as fans, because what we all want is a good final. Hasn't always been the case. This was Don Fifield running a piece in The Athletic, which was an awful lot of fun if you get a chance to read it, saying, oh no, this is what they dread. And this was a quote from the piece talking about, when you have Michael Carrick, United coming up against Chelsea. Had we lost that night in Moscow, we'd have to endure the agony of being reminded about it every time we play Chelsea in the Premier League or domestic cups. So it made it such a high pressurised situation, so much more at stake. It becomes a kind of crazy beat inside before the first whistle is even blown. The feeling of having to turn up with England after that game, being on the losing side, would have been tortuous. It would have been horrendous. It's a good piece, because remember, this will be the 3rd time we've seen an all-English Champions League final. But Adam, the worry is, do these two cancel one another out? Does it impact the way they play? Or do we get a classic?
Yeah, it's a great quote there, John, from Michael Carrick. And it'll be interesting. We were talking earlier about how important early goals are. And the other All-English Champions League final, that one Liverpool against Spurs, of course, Liverpool scoring that really early goal, the Mo Salah penalty after 2 minutes. That's the danger there, that can perhaps sort of kill off the game in terms of a contest, because one of the sides scores early, right, we're up 1-0, let's sit on that lead and just try and shut it out. I think that's what both sets of fans and the neutral spectator, if they're just looking for, for an entertaining spectacle, that is what they're hoping doesn't happen. And there is a danger of that. And I think what Carrick says about the pressure, the fact that you're going to play this team so many times, it's not a single showpiece, that you might not play, this team again for several seasons, does play into it. And I think that will have a psychological effect on the players. I'm certainly hoping, and I think, given what's happened in the last year and a half, it'll be lovely to have a really open, flowing Champions League final that showcases the attacking talent that both sides have.
All right, Adam, I'm going to have to let you get away and get about your work today. We really appreciate you taking the time to join us, and enjoy everything through to the final and the final.
Thanks very much, John and Dan. Enjoy the game.
Great timing there, just as the